All right, really short Bentley video trying to look back at yesterday's response sheet. I looked through the responses and I know that people really struggled with this, and this was a little tricky. So I wanted to make a video that way people would have access to it and go back to it in case they missed it right now. So remember, if we go back to our Mono Lake ecosystem and we remember, keep in mind our food webs, the coyotes end up eating this bird, the phalarope, the Wilson's phalaropes, which in turn in our food web, those phalaropes eat brine shrimp. And then the brine shrimp end up eating our producers, the algae. So we've got a little food web, little food chain going there. And after discussing the biomass pyramid thing, one of these, I guess they're your friends, as two students, says, oh, if you had a 20 kilogram, remember we're talking about biomass, how big, how much meat and muscle, the mass of the organism. If you had a 20 kilogram coyote, that's about 44 pounds, 42 to 44 pounds. For that one to survive, it would have to eat around 200 kilograms of Wilson's phalaropes. And then for those, that's numerous birds. That's hundreds and hundreds of birds. Birds are pretty light. For those to survive, they would have to eat 400 kilograms of shrimp, which think about how small these brine shrimp are. They're almost microscopic. They're tiny. That's thousands and thousands and tens of thousands. And then in order for those brine shrimp to survive, that would take 800 kilograms. That's a huge number. That's almost a ton of algae here, this photosynthetic algae, microscopic algae. So one friend makes that claim, and he kind of said, hey, there's got to be a lot more below that. And the other student said, no, I think it takes even more than that. So I had asked you to kind of respond which student you think is correct here. So I want to look at our answers, and you can see I've drawn a really terrible pyramid up here with our coyotes at the top. These are our phalaropes, the birds. Here is our shrimp, the brine shrimp, and then the algae at the bottom. So our producers, our primary consumers, secondary consumers, and third level consumers. Now remember, the key answer here is that we've got to take into account this 10% rule. So actually what we're going to see is the second student is correct. Because remember, according to this 10% rule, only 10% of the available energy or biomass moves up to and gets stored at the next level. Remember, most of that food, that biomass and energy gets lost because they use it, like we said. So what's weird about this is that we only know this top number. So we've actually got to go down. We know there's got to be a lot more of the phalaropes, the birds, even more of the shrimp, and even more of the algae. But we want to try to figure out here, 20 kilograms is 10% of what number? So it's a really easy trick. All that student had to do, this student essentially wanted to double the amount. They kind of had the right idea here. They said 200 kilograms, and what we're going to see is, hey, that's correct. But then all that student did was double the amounts here. And what you actually need to do, in order to figure out this 10%, you should take the number you have and multiply it by 10 for each level going down to the algae. So what we want to do here is to figure out how much food biomass the coyote would need to survive, that 120 kilogram coyote. We'd have to multiply that times 10. So 20 times 10, we're going to see how many kilograms of phalaropes. 120 kilogram coyote times 10, it's going to take 200 kilograms of those birds. So that first student was right in the first part right here. So this would actually be 200. But now we got to keep going. Now we've got to take this 200 kilograms of birds and multiply that times 10. So if we keep on going down here, we take 200 kilograms times 10. All we're really doing is adding another zero on there. That would take 2,000 kilograms of brine shrimp. That is huge. A kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So we're talking over 4,000 pounds of shrimp just for that many birds to survive, just for one coyote to survive. So we would actually be at 200 kilograms of phalaropes, 2,000 of the shrimp, and then think about how much food that shrimp would need, the little tiny shrimp swimming around in the water. If there's 2,000 kilograms of those, We've got to multiply that times 10. That's 20,000 kilograms of algae, of this photosynthetic microscopic algae. 20,000 kilograms. Remember, a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. That's over 40,000 pounds of the shrimp. That is crazy. So we should actually have 20, 200, 2,000, and 20,000. So you can see just for one little measly coyote to survive, it takes literally tons and tons and tons of the bottom level producers. So that is why we draw that as a pyramid. It takes a lot of algae to support the shrimp, to support the birds, to support one little coyote. And that's also why we said yesterday why if we kept going, if something were above the coyote, there wouldn't be enough food for that thing to eat if we run out of food. So I just wanted to show you guys really quickly how we use that 10% rule. And remember, that rule applies to biomass as we go up. And since biomass is energy, it also applies to energy numbers as well, like we saw. Pretty easy.